Alright, I just had to record this game, not because this one is particularly noteworthy in terms of the back and forth battle, but because the game was absolutely crazy in terms of how uh, the deck just completely blew up. Incidentally, let me quickly bring up the list. Here's the deck list that I'm using. This is the version of Oloro I'm using. Um, the funny thing is the fact that it's Oloro, other than well-of-lost streams, rarely ever matters. Occasionally you play the commander, but frequently I've heard people complain about they don't want to play against Oloro, but any commander that gives me access to these cards, you know, I could change one card and have the same deck, would do. Zur would be the next best, because then Zur could just tap to put Necropotence into play. But anyway, enough on that. Here's the game that I thought was pretty amusing, just in terms of degeneracy. And so far with the deck list, by the way, that you saw, I have not lost a single game. And I've been playing this. I played roughly almost 80 games, and I haven't lost one yet. Definitely more than 60, so I don't know exactly how many. But I guess that gives away the fact that I'm not going to lose this one. Anyway, the other guy's playing Daxos to return, so he has a non-blue commander, so you probably would have figured out that I wasn't going to lose anyway. Anyhow, I'm gonna. This hand is obviously an insanely keepable hand, and if he doesn't have disruption immediately, then he's just going to pay. So he's got expedition maps, so I guess it'll be me who's doing a mild amount of disrupting. So tutor for Lotus. And I just pop the map in case he needs it. If he had a Soul Ring, I'm sure he would have played it. So normally I might save it, but with Necropotence potentially refilling my hand here, I'm not going to give him the map to fix his mana, and don't really care about card conservation at this point. So I draw a useless Terminus, but no big deal there. Turn 3 Necro, drawing 5 cards. And then I pay a little, I over Necro by I think 1? Yeah, because that's how I like to do it normally. And he's Vampiric, so he can, I assume, get Necro off the board. So I throw away a fetch land just because it doesn't really look like I'm going to need to fetch from this position. A Tundra, I've got plenty of land drops. I've got white, even if he attacks one of my mana sources, I'll be fine for a while. And I don't really need the white mana that bad. So he plays Aura of Silence. And then it's kind of hard for him here. I mean, what do? The Necro's already down. The game's probably over anyway. But, do you kill the Necro or do you kill the mana? But considering the amount of mana that it leaves me with. Considering this is fragile, though, I think it could be right to kill the Gilded Lotus. Against a lot of players, I would say that's right. But the problem is with Workshop, if you had, like, say, a Wasteland to go with it, maybe it'd be a little better. But with Workshop, I'm just gonna Necro my way out of this and not worry about it. So, out of the slight mana pinch that it does. So I Necro and over Necro a bunch, and then go ahead and just Mystical Tutor. But even though I say I'm over Necroing a bunch, like it's a calculated amount. I Mystical for Demonic. I figure out how many cards in my hand, how many cards will it take to refill my hand, plus 1, because I can only hit one land drop per turn, so that way when I draw a handful of cards, and there's more than one land, I can throw away the excess. And then also I looked at the fact that Terminus probably wasn't going to be too useful for me, so I paid a little extra for that as well. And so now I have to discard, so I throw away, again, just a bunch of lands that I'm not going to use in Terminus, and then my one land drop, I'll hit my one land drop for the turn. I threw away, like, lands that deal damage to me, and I don't really like I don't like playing or throwing away basics because I kind of want to save them for tax rack, excuse me, in a normal game. But once you have Necropotence, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Tax rack is drawing 4 cards per turn for 1 mana. It's just a little slow when you have Necropotence because in that case you have to hold back on mana, and with Necro you don't. And it's I don't know. This card needs to be banned from the format. Honestly, like, I'm going to use it until it's banned. Maybe somebody will see these videos or games or something and realize it needs to be banned, but until then, it is the card to play. So my opponent gets a Academy Rector down, which, if he can sack it and get his own Necropolis into play, could do something. And the Demonic Tutor that I Mystical Tutored for goes to my hand off the Dark Confidant. So it's almost like I got my draw phase back. Pay 2 life to draw a 2-mana spell. So I PT. And I have tons of cards, so I just want tons of mana now. Excuse me. No need to and at this point I feel there's no need to pinch his mana under the orb because it'll be pinching mine too. And I've got access to superior card advantage, so I just want to generate even more mana. So I do this because with Spell Pierce in my hand, like a conceivable play in his deck might be something like the only way I could see him getting in the game would be cast Armageddon, play Phyrexian Tower, sack the Academy Rector, go get Necro, have 2 black mana in his mana pool, and then do something with it. With Spell Pierce, that's not going to happen. So I go ahead and just pay a little bit of life and refill my hand. As it turns out, he doesn't have any crazy play like the line that I just went over. In fact, instead of getting, if he could sack the Erector, instead of getting, in the example I gave, instead of getting Necro, if he got Enchant, if he got the 6 mana, well, he's not playing blue, so it doesn't matter. But if you were playing blue, you could get the enchantment that let him gain control of the Necropotence. The other thing you could possibly have gotten was Faith Fetters and put it on the Necropotence if you were able to do that. If I let it happen. If I didn't Necro in response. And then, of course, that would have the potential to prevent me from ever drawing again. Obviously, my hand would make it so that I could fix that problem, but it's a lot of stretching. But I mean, I might as well try to figure out what he can do to win, because if I don't worry about it, then I might give him an out. So anyway, the brokenness shall continue, though. So now I get to will, and this is what I thought was kind of neat, that I was able to do something here that I'm not usually able to do, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So this is kind of why I want to make the video. So I'm going to will, right, for, we're going to get the Lotus back, obviously. I think that's obvious. And the Metamorph on the Lotus. And now we can tap for mana in Tezzeret. I'm looking at this turn, just gets more and more gross, by the way. Okay, so now we got Teferi down. We cast a 1 Power Stone. And now I can Teferi 4 permanents. So Teferi actually cost me, he actually cost me -4 mana. He actually produced 4 mana by casting him, which is amazing. I just love that. Anyway, so this is the interesting thing. This is the most interesting thing, though. I'm able to Demonic Tutor from the graveyard, which is cool. Fetch Humility. Recast Seal. Play the Humility. But then, I have Mystical and Vamp. I'd like to take advantage of both. How do you take advantage of both? Well, I'm sure you figured it out. But I'll go through the motions because it's kind of cool that you can do this. So I Mystical Tutor for Force of Will, of course. At this point I'm winning. I just want to protect my winning position. I Necro for 1, and now I can Vampiric Tutor and go get the card I want to get off of that. And then I Necro for 2 more. And there's Mind Twist, Force of Will. Plus, with the Humility play, excuse me, I've not only shut down his commander and his potential for his Academy Rector to do anything, but it also turned off my Dark Confidant, and at 14 life, it's fine to turn him off now. And of course my opponent plays land and concedes, because, yeah, it's clearly over, but I thought it was kind of cool because it's very rare that during a Yawgmoth's Will, you're going to be able to Mystical Tutor and Vampiric Tutor and capitalize on both. But I was able to the Demonic Mystical Vamp all 3 during that Yawgmoth's Will and use them all, which felt very Type 1 to me, to be able to do something that gross. So it was pretty cool and pretty fun, and hope you enjoyed that. I will do a couple of other games here. I'll back up to the last 3, only to show I've been having really good luck with Workshop, and it really does make game is so gross. Eventually, I'm hoping. Eventually, offline, my paper magic deck will someday have a workshop, I think. But for now, I get to only enjoy this kind of degeneracy online. Anyway, so here's this guy playing some Elder Dragon stuff. Actually, I don't even think this was a workshop draw. This was just a good draw. It was the other two I think that were. So this may not be as interesting of a game, but I'll just run through it. Actually, I get Dark Tutelage done. He has an answer for it, but it was a prep spell for Well of Lost Dream, which is kind of funny. He has unexpected results in his land, so the unexpected results goes back to his hand because he has another spell he can cast. And from there, so this was one of the examples of, the last game was a degenerate draw. This is one of the examples of how when you don't get a degenerate draw, then you can just play, you can play a draw-go control game instead. And we still get to do some pretty broken stuff like mana draining a 4-drop. While drawing, 3 to 4 cards per turn. Of course, now I find Necro, so I've got to do something. I want to do something with colorless mana, so I actually give myself another mana source. Once you find Necro, then the game's pretty much over. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the format. He's actually frantic searching, so he just mulliganed basically, and then he plays this weird thing, goes and gets himself a Eldrazi, or 1 with nothing or something. So anyway, I just condescend, dump a couple of cards, pay nothing for the no point. Get the Necro down. I'm not going to play Crucible as well. I'm in a good spot. Oh wait, no, I am going to play Crucible as well because I'm in a good spot to do it. And the reason is, while I can cast Deprive here off the island. Also, I left the island untapped because if he had a Wasteland to push a spell through, of course I know that it's impossible for, he only has 1 card, so it's impossible for him to really get a Wasteland plus a relevant spell. But it's good to practice playing correctly. I leave the island untapped because only Strip Mine would be able to kill my land and prevent me from casting a counterspell. Meanwhile, what's neat is this Sylvan Caryatid was actually a Phyrexian Metamorph, which means it's an artifact, which means that I actually have Metalcraft for Stoic Rebuttal, even though it doesn't really look like I do. So I won't even have to cast Deprive if I were to counterspell, but of course I drew the Force of Will as well. So, and then finally, with the Enlightened Tutor on the stack, he finally gives up. I'm not sure what he thought. I'm not sure why he thought that the Enlightened Tutor itself was going to be the thing that made the difference, because, I mean, tutoring for a Necro, I mean, the Necro really is, what makes the difference, but I was going to, I'm not even sure how much Well of Lost Dreams action I was going to be doing for the rest of that game, but I had the option to use it to trigger Terminus whenever I wanted to, which is kind of cool. But meanwhile, I was just going to go get, again, Gilded Lotus. Having a reusable Black Lotus, Black Lotus on a stick, even for 5 mana, it's totally ridiculous. These last 2 games here are pretty fun, I think, in the degeneracy department. So I've got a workshop hand here. I just have to find a way to make it work. So luckily, there's a scroll rack hiding in there. This one takes a little longer to get going than the first game, but if I draw well, which is weird, I actually thought about mystical tutoring for that's weird. I actually thought about mystical tutoring for a Force of Will on the previous turn, and then playing Scroll Rack, and then activating this, and then digging so that I could just dig that way, right away. But I decided not to do that because I was hoping to draw artifact mana, and instead I drew that Well of Lost Dream. So I put it on the table and start drawing. There's Lotus. Almost have everything we want. We just need 1 more mana here. So I can just draw a land or an artifact mana that doesn't come into play tapped, and I'm all set. Well, one of the broken ones. One of the ones that makes more mana than it costs. Anyway, meanwhile, my opponent's putting a bunch of lands into play, so totally fine with that. I do not. I don't pay for well because I need to scroll rack if I don't hit land, and I don't. So I scroll rack everything but the Lotus, hoping that I'm going to be able to play it this turn. Cannot. But I'm able to get the Lantern down, and so I go ahead and just play Confidant as well. Excuse me. I could have pondered and preordained, but the cards on top of my deck are cards I want, so I'm not going to shuffle those away. He puts even more lands in the deck. That is not going to go in there. So because I knew that the top card, what the top cards were, I went ahead and paid 1 for the well because I wanted to draw the Jace, and then I let Confidant reveal the Forbid. And I was thinking maybe he would give up right here. Also, I needed to save 5 mana for the Lotus, and I knew I was going to hit land. But I didn't want to. I didn't want to shuffle away Jace, Forbid, or Stoic Rebuttal. That's the other reason why I played it out the way that I did. Why I didn't fetch before the reveal off Confidant, and why I paid 1 because I wanted to get 2 counter spells and a Jace. I didn't want to. I knew the top card was Jace. I didn't want to get Jace and then shuffle away like the Forbid or the Rebuttal. So I had to dig 1 to get it. So anyway, I'm able to play Lotus here, but it makes more sense to fetch a land first so that I can hit my land drop and then play the Lotus. I just have to make sure I put enough cards down so that I do indeed hit land. So I figured the right amount was everything except for the Stoic and the Lotus. And the reason I didn't keep the Forbid is that if I'm going to play the counterspell, I might as well play the one that doesn't require buyback, and then I can set up the Forbid on the next turn. So we're good here. I actually get a Grim, so I'm able to run some mana out through the Azoria Signet that I also drew, and able to play even more mana this turn. So provided he doesn't Vandal Blast me, I'm probably in good shape. He does not. Just his commander, and I'm going to mana drain that. He would have needed a Vandal Blast and a counter to back it up, but he did have the mana for that kind of a play, if not the cards. And then with the 5 mana coming from the mana drain, he finally packs it in. Of course, I was going to get, I don't remember, what did I have on top? I think I had Future Sight or Jace on top, and then it was just going to get more ridiculous. I was going to draw 5 cards this turn and play Crucible and get a 6th card off of this, off of the free card from the graveyard. So yeah, pretty good. And then for the most degenerate, well, maybe not the most, but I think the first game was probably the most ridiculous. But for another, the last kind of fun little shoppy draw, can we get this game to replay? It's just not even going to replay? That's weird. I tested this out before I started. What is going on with that? Well, that's crazy. All right, let's try this. Sorry. So while we're waiting for that, again, this is the list here. I've been calling it restricted list Oloro because it just abuses as much on the restricted list. Not every single card that's on the restricted list could be in this deck is in this deck, but as many as made sense. And certainly because they added 2 more to the list, cruising, yeah, certainly 2 more cards have come in that have increased those numbers. And then if you look at like Fact or Fiction and Thirst, they're not on the restricted list anymore, but they actually used to be. So in some ways, you can kind of look at it from the power level of it. At one point, these were restricted in Vintage, and I think Thirst was the most recent one to come off. I think Fact came off first. I can't remember exactly. So anyway, still kind of a neat situation. Okay, so let's see if we can get this game going. There we go. All right. Well, hopefully it was worth all the wait on this one. So this guy's playing Lazev Diner Mastermind. This is keepable if I'm going first and I kind of like want to take a big risk, but it's not a good hand. I mean, I could go if I were going first, which I'm not, and I played a land, then I could spell pierce a crypt or a soul ring. But the problem is I don't really have at that point. What else am I doing? I'm not really doing much. So even though this could theoretically be keepable if I were going first, A, I'm not going first, and B, it doesn't develop correctly unless I get lucky top decks. And you don't want to put yourself in a position, if you can help it, you don't want to be having to top deck from turn one. Now this hand on the other hand, and did you see what I scribed to the top of my deck? Yeah, it was workshop. So he gets a first turn soul ring, which is a pretty, I mean that's top notch. But it's not this good. First turn Gilded Lotus, Dark Tutelage. Gross. If that had been Necro, the only thing that could have made it more disgusting, I think, would have been if this were Necro and if, like, this card was Force of Will or something. Like, other than outside of that, I mean, hey, but what are you going to do? Can't have everything, right? You can only have first turn, 8 mana. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I play the Snow-Covered Island, and then to add insult to injury, he goes for a memory jar. So I guess he was playing some kind of combo, or I mean, these are a couple of degenerate cards here, Soul Ring and Memory Jar. If you think about it, but yeah, not enough to keep up. So I'm able to impulse into Future Sight, Mana Drain the Memory Jar, the most broken counterspell ever, next to Force of Will, and then play the Future Sight, right? Map off the top as a Merchant Scroll. Cast the Merchant Scroll off the top. What was the other most broken counterspell ever printed? Oh yeah, Force of Will. Top decking is a Stoic Rebuttal. I haven't played a land yet, so I play Misty Rainforest. I've got 4 colorless in my pool. He concedes, but I'm about to sack this for Tundra. Then Enlightened Tutor for Sensei's Divining Top. And then draw 4 cards off the Sensei's Divining Top by tapping the top, putting it on top of my deck, drawing the top card, and then replaying the top using the artifact mana and then the regular mana. So he's about to draw 4, 5, 6 more cards with a Force of Will in my hand and all this in play, and it's turn 3. Like, talk about your disgusting starts. That was 2 absolute monster starts, thanks to fast mana and some good luck. And making a good choice on the mulligan. So anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching this deck do its degenerate stuff. Just some quick games, but like I said, since I added the Cruise and the Dig and I've switched to this, I've added the Exclude and the Thirst and gone to this setup that you see here. I've had somewhere between 70 and 100 games, and I have lost 0. So it seems to be working pretty well. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.